Hey, in this week's episode of Topical English Vocabulary with me, Teacher Tiffany, I'm going to teach you 5 new English terms about genetic testing. As an English learner, your goal is to speak English fluently and with confidence. And in order to do this, you must learn words and terms related to specific topics. So are you ready? Well then, let's jump right in. The very first term I'm going to teach you related to genetic testing is genotype. Good. Again, after me. Genotype. Great job. Last time after me. Genotype. Excellent. So, genotype is our first term related to genetic testing. But what is a genotype? This term is something that we're going to dive deeper into. So, genotype, this term just refers to the genetic constitution of an individual, typically represented by specific alleles for a given trait. Now, just a heads up, later on in our lesson, we're going to be going over this term, allele, so don't go anywhere. But the term that we're looking at right now, again, is genotype. And according to the definition, again, it's the genetic constitution of an individual, the genetic makeup of an individual, the genes within an individual, the makeup, the structure. So again, when you hear genotype, I want you to think about the genetic structure or makeup of an individual. Make sense? Now again, we're learning these scientific terms so that you, my friend, can speak English confidently and fluently about this topic. So let's check out these example sentences. Here's the first one. The genotype of an organism determines its potential characteristics and traits. Next, genetic testing can reveal an individual's genotype for specific inherited conditions. And finally, scientists often study the genotype to understand the genetic basis of diseases. Got it? Yes, so once again, our first term is genotype. Excellent. All right, now it's time for us to move to our second term. Our second term, again, for this topic, genetic testing, is phenotype. Very similar pronunciation, right? Again, phenotype. Good, we're going to do it 2 more times. Again, after me, phenotype. Great job. Last time after me, phenotype. Excellent. All right, so our second term related to genetic testing, again, is phenotype. But what is a phenotype? So we're going to go back to look at our definition, all right? So phenotype, this literally just refers to the observable physical or biochemical characteristics of an organism determined by both genotype, which we know now, and environment. The key to this definition is found at the beginning. The observable physical and biochemical characteristics of an organism. What can be seen, the structure of an organism, observable physical and biochemical characteristics. This is what is referred to as phenotype. You got it? All right, now let's check out these example sentences. Here's the first example sentence. The phenotype of a plant can be influenced by its growing conditions as well as its genotype. Next, genetic testing can help predict an individual's phenotype in relation to certain traits. And finally, researchers analyze both genotype and phenotype to understand genetic diversity. All right, again, speaking about phenotype. Now, you're probably wondering, Tiffany, how do I get the PDF that you're using if you're watching the video? How can I actually study the information that you're teaching us? Now, everything that I'm teaching you actually is coming from today's English email. The email I send out from Sunday to Friday to thousands of people around the world. The daily English vocabulary email newsletter. You can enroll, sign up for free to get the email from Sunday to Friday by going to www.dailyenglishvocabulary.com. Again, dailyenglishvocabulary.com. Everything that I'm teaching in today's lesson is found in that email, the one that I sent out today. All right. So again, we just looked at this term, phenotype. Good. All right. Now it's time for us to move to our third term. Again, we're speaking about terms related to genetic testing. And our third term is mutations. Good. Excellent. Again, after me. Mutations. Very good. All right. Now I'm going to remove the S. Sometimes we have an S, sometimes we don't, depending on if it's plural or singular, all right? So mutation. Last time after me. Mutation. Good job. All right, so the third term we have relating to this topic of genetic testing is mutation. What is a mutation? So the definition of mutation is, let's actually highlight it right here. All right, for those watching, here we go. A change in the DNA sequence that can lead to variations in traits and may result in diseases or conditions. So I want you to think about it like this. I'm going to do a rough or brief sketch of what a DNA sort of looks like. I haven't drawn DNA literally in more than 20 years, all right? But let's just imagine DNA looks like this, all right? And let's say there's a break or a change in the DNA. There's a break, right? Somehow there's an issue at certain parts of the DNA. This will result in a change in the physical makeup of an organism, right? Whether it be a person, whether it be an animal. This is what we call a mutation, right? Let's say, for example, unfortunately, a child is born without an arm, or a child is born with one eye that is distorted or changed a bit. That's because there possibly was a mutation. Their DNA was changed a bit. Make sense? All right, again, so in English, we say mutation. All right, you're getting a science lesson too. Here's the first example sentence, all right? Our first example sentence is, genetic testing can identify specific mutations associated with hereditary diseases. Next, some mutations are benign, while others can have serious health implications. And finally, environmental factors can sometimes trigger mutations in DNA that affect cell function. For example, remember when there was that nuclear explosion, unfortunately, in Japan? Well, some people are feeling the effects of that nuclear explosion. It affected their DNA. It affected their makeup. So certain mutations are happening, and also in the food. Make sense? All right. So again, number 3, our third term, mutation. Excellent. All right. So now let's move on to our fourth term. Our fourth term that I mentioned earlier, and I said I would actually teach you this term. The fourth term is allele. Good, very good. Again, allele. Good. Last time after me. Allele. Good job. There are a lot of L's in this word, all right? So again, speaking about genetic testing, our fourth term is allele. So what does allele actually refer to? What does it mean? So this term allele just refers to one of two or more versions of a gene that can exist at a specific locus on a chromosome. So again, the key to this definition, one of two or more versions of a gene that can exist at a specific locus on a chromosome. All right, so one of two or more versions of a gene that exists on a chromosome. I want you to try to envision what this looks like. Imagine a chromosome, And there's one of two or more versions of a gene. Let's imagine this gene, and it's actually attached to this chromosome. You saw it, didn't you? All right. We say it's an allele. Allele. All right. Here we go. I'm not going to lie. I'm enjoying this lesson because it's reminding me of some of the lessons I had when I was in high school. All right. So here's the first example sentence using this term. Each individual inherits one allele from each parent for every gene. Next, genetic testing can reveal which alleles a person carries for specific traits. And finally, variations in alleles can influence characteristics such as eye color and disease susceptibility. You got it? Excellent. So again, our fourth term, allele. Great job. All right, now we're moving to our fifth term. Again, the term that is connected to our topic for today, genetic testing. Our fifth term is carrier. Good. Now you might have heard this word before, but now you're learning it in connection with genetic testing. All right. So begin after me. Carrier. I'm leaving all of this in the video so that you guys realize it's real life. Okay, again, last time after me. Carrier. Good job. All right, so our fifth term, again, about genetic testing is carrier. What is a carrier? So a carrier just refers to, let's get it on the screen, here we go, an individual who has one copy of a mutated gene for a recessive disorder, but does not exhibit symptoms of the disorder. Again, has a copy of a mutated gene for a recessive disorder. Now, again, I remember learning about this in high school and even in college. So let's say, for example, sickle cell. All right, sickle cell. So I don't personally have sickle cell. Right? I actually knew someone who had sickle cell. Unfortunately, they passed away. So I don't have sickle cell, but I might still carry again, what does it say? The mutated gene. The mutated gene for a recessive disorder. So I might have the mutated gene in my body, which means that when I get pregnant or before I get pregnant, the doctor will look at my genes, my genotype, my phenotype, and say, okay, Tiffany, I know you want to get pregnant. Just keep in mind, you do have the mutated gene of sickle cell. Even though you don't personally have sickle cell, you can hand that mutated gene off to your child, and your child could get or have sickle cell when he or she is born. Does that make sense? Again, I don't have sickle cell, but I can be the carrier, the person that has that gene, that mutated gene, and can hand it to my child. Does that make sense? I think you got it. Excellent. All right, here we go. So now, again, we understand the meaning of carrier. So let's check out the example sentences. Here we go. Genetic testing can determine if someone is the carrier of certain genetic conditions. Next, understanding carrier status is important for family planning and prenatal care. And finally, many people are unaware they are carriers of genetic mutations until tested. You got it? Yes. So once again, our fifth term is carrier. Great job. All right, so we have these 5 terms, again, speaking about genetic testing. Again, giving you the opportunity to speak English fluently and competently about this topic. But I want us to listen to a paragraph using each of these terms: genotype, phenotype, mutation, allele, and carrier. What would a paragraph sound like using each of these terms? I want you to listen closely. Genetic testing is a process used to analyze a person's DNA to identify genetic variations. These variations, known as alleles, can influence a person's risk of developing certain diseases or traits. A carrier is an individual who has one copy of a harmful allele but does not exhibit symptoms. Mutations are changes in the DNA sequence that can lead to altered phenotypes or observable characteristics. Genotype refers to the genetic makeup of an individual, while phenotype refers to the physical expression of those genes. All in all, testing has the potential to revolutionize healthcare and provide valuable insights into individual health and well-being. Now, each of the terms that we discussed today were heard in this paragraph: alleles, carrier, mutations, phenotypes, and genotype. You now have the tools you need to speak English fluently and confidently about this topic. I'll talk to you next time.